I'd like to first of all introduce the panel that we have today. Firstly, we have Sugra Alibai. She is a senior vice principal and head of sixth form at the Isaac Newton Academy, based in Redbridge, and she is also trained as a mathematics teacher. Second, we have Mr. Brian Reed, head of year 13, and is a science teacher. And he's been in teaching for the last 15 odd years. So been long in the tooth, shall we say. Brian's also a parent to a year 13 pupil. So he's got first-hand knowledge of how all of you parents must be feeling at this time. Brian, I have a little one, so I can't say that I'm in the same boat as you, but I certainly do feel those challenges as well. We also are fortunate to have with us Salim Jakra. He is a consultant child and adolescent psychiatrist working in Northwest London. And finally, we have with us Shahina Janjua Jivraj, who is the chair of the Aga Khan Education Board and is also an associate professor at the Henley Business School. So welcome to all of our panelists and thank you for your time this morning. One of the things that in terms of the structure for today, we have some set questions that we'll go through, and then afterwards we'll have some open questions. Feel free to type those questions in on the chat facility, and then towards the open questions we'll be able to run through those. But what I'd first like to do is to hand over to Shahina to give a small welcome.
Thanks, Ashif. Yani Madad, everybody. It's good to have you with us this morning. And it's been about 2 weeks now since we've had the schools closed. And during that time, there's been a huge amount of adjustment for parents, for children, and also for teachers as well. So we recognise it's been quite a chaotic couple of weeks. And really what we wanted to do today was just give you a chance to step back, think about some of the questions you have specifically around secondary school children. Some of you will know we did a webinar 2 weeks ago, and on the back of that, a lot of very useful feedback has come to us around providing more age-specific advice, but also recognising there's a huge amount of resource within the Jamaat that we're keen to tap into as well. I'm really pleased with the panel we have today, and particularly the timing, because we will spend quite a bit of time talking about the recent guidelines that have come around exams, and also helping you think about children who are going through transitional years. Similar to Brian, again, a parent of 3 children, and 2 are definitely in secondary school age. It's that very delicate negotiation between trying to encourage them to do their work, but still supporting their independence, and not, slightly different mindset there. So please feel free to share some of the questions and queries you have around that. We are evolving the work we're doing within the Education Board, and we're doing it very closely aligned with the Department for Education. But if there's additional support you need from us, if there are additional suggestions you think we can be providing to the Jamaat, please don't hesitate to contact us. And moving forward, on Tuesdays we'll be sending out a lot more information, signposting you to webinars, resources, other bits of information that will help either you as parents, help students, or even those of you who are looking for some ongoing learning for yourselves through our Head Start portal as well. So just to remind you, from an EB point of view, schools may be closed, but learning is still open, and we're looking forward to working with you and supporting you on that journey.
Thanks very much, Shahina. Right, well, we'll crack on straight into the questions. I'm going to have those on the screen, and I'll put all of them on the screen just so you can just think about those if you have any additional questions on them. So the first question we have, and the big news this week, was the announcements by the UK government and their guidance and guidelines regarding examinations for GCSEs and A-levels, and how that is going to impact on university entrance. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pass over to Sugra, who will be able to provide a little bit more context around the guidance that was provided. Sugra, over to you.
Okay, Yalima, that everyone, I'm really conscious that if you are a parent or carer of a child in year 11 or year 13, the last couple of weeks must have been incredibly debilitating and quite stressful. It's great news that there has been some guidance from Ofcol that got released on Friday afternoon. So there's just a couple of things from that in terms of what Ofcol are doing. So first of all, the kind of immediate headlines is that this guidance refers to students taking GCSEs, AS levels and A levels. This guidance does not relate to the BTEC vocational qualifications. We anticipate that that information will be coming out soon, shortly, but this guidance does not relate to those vocational qualifications. Essentially, what's going to happen is that schools are going to be asked to rank, like grade students, and then rank students within each of those gradings. And then schools will be asked to submit that to Ofcol or the examination boards. And then using that information, the examining bodies will synthesize all of that and make sure on a national picture, the curve and the bell curve looks comparable to previous years. And it also means that they will look at schools' previous performance and ensure that the grades are vaguely in line with schools' previous performance. They will also look at how students performed at their previous examinable point. So they might have looked at how students did in their SATs in year 6, or at their GCSEs if they're taking A levels. So that's broadly how what that means. There is a letter from Ofcol to students, which we will be sharing with the Jamaat in due course. I mean, it's all available online. But there are just a couple of things in that letter that I have noticed as a teacher that I would urge parents to kind of be cautious of. So there is a line in the letter, and I'm just going to read it, where it says, the question is, do I need to complete any new work for my school or college to submit a grade? And the answer is, your school or college is not required to set additional mock examinations or homework for you for your centre assessment grades. And you won't be disadvantaged if you were not set or were unable to complete any work given after schools were closed. Now, the reason why I have been particularly drawn to this as a kind of senior member of staff and the head of sixth form in my school is because I would be nervous that a young person reads that and thinks, that's okay, I'm going to burn my A-level notes or I'm going to burn my GCSE notes. And I've seen pictures of that appearing on Twitter, and that makes me very nervous as an educator for a couple of reasons. So the first thing is, I want to stress that the reason why that is on there is because society has various levels of advantage and disadvantage. And what Ofcol are doing by giving this reassurance is by ensuring that students who come from the lowest income families, that are from the kind of most deprived areas, are not disadvantaged by the fact that one computer in the household between several family members, or the fact that, you know, they might not be able to afford internet connection. You know, society varies hugely, and Ofcol need to make sure that the system that they design is fairest for the most advantaged and the least advantaged. But my advice and the AKEB's position is really clear around the importance of continuing learning during this time. And it's for two main reasons. The first is, although students are not required to complete learning, it's really important that our brains are kept active during this time, because you want your sons and daughters, and I'd be saying this to the students themselves, you want them to be ready for the next stage of education. So if they are, whatever age they're at, you want them to be ready, you want them to be prepared, you want them to feel confident in those next steps. And this is a good chance, a golden opportunity to ensure that those foundations are still being kept strong. We know that the jump from GCSE to A-level or Key Stage 5 courses is huge, and one of the kind of biggest jumps that young people have to make. We know we know that, again, students making that move to university find it a big leap. So this idea that, you know, even though you may not be required to do so, that it would not be prudent to do so, I would urge very much for that reason, even if that was the reason alone, to be a reason to keep studying. But the second reason is that this system, albeit is a good system and probably the fairest system in an imperfect situation, is going to yield some students that will be disappointed with their results. We know that even when we have like the system that we've got like previously, where students sat exams, students would be disappointed, they'd want to retake, they'd want to, you know, and with this system, with all its uncertainty, if for whatever reason you are unhappy with the grade that you've been issued, there will be the opportunity to resit exams in the autumn term. We're still yet to get the final details, but you know, there is this opportunity for young people to challenge that result by sitting an examination. You want to be match fit, ready, prepared in case that is the situation you're landed in. It's my sincerest hope that no one in the Jamaat is in that situation, but I feel very strong that the advice we should be giving as the board is you should be continuing with your learning. It's important for those two reasons. And ultimately, you know, Hazir Imam talks about the importance of our education. That's us loving learning because joy of learning. And if you are going on to study X or Y, you want to be ready and in the best possible position.
Thank you, Sugra. I just wanted to bring in Brian here. Sugra mentioned about the letter that went out to students. As your son probably received this letter, so I just wanted to ask, how did he react to that, and did he discover any, if you excuse a pun, any fuel for the fire?
Well, he hasn't burnt any books yet, which is good. To carry on that metaphor. I think, hello everyone. Over the last couple of weeks as head of year, and I'm aware that among the people taking part today, there's going to be people who, for whom this is, if their children are much younger, this is not that relevant, but I'm talking to 17, 18-year-olds, and I've been really, really impressed by how mature they've been and how they've wanted to be active and they've wanted to carry on. Obviously, the off-call guidance now puts a question mark against that, but certainly as from our school, we're very much sending the message, it's business as usual. I would definitely echo what Sugra said around the mental well-being and the activity, and they've just got to keep occupied. And that's the discussions I've had with the 17 and 18-year-olds that I've spoken to. That's definitely what they want. There's no, they've not been jumping up and down thinking, oh great, that's the end of it, because they'll just realize that there's just not that much else for them to do that's going to keep them occupied and satisfied. Is it okay for me to try and answer the specific question, number 2?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the second question that we have is, what activities can my child be doing to help with future applications for jobs, university and college? So Brian, over to you, please.
Okay. I mean, a huge caveat, and I know we're going to talk about this in question 4, is, it's not going to work if you try and impose something and you feel that you're nagging a 17 or 16, 17, 18-year-old, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. It's not, I really don't think that's going to work in a lot of cases. So please be very, very mindful about the level of engagement, the mental health, where is your child and what are they up for? But, I know on the website, there's lots of information, there's lots of great ideas. I would just mention a couple that I think are particularly interesting, and I've heard some students are really embracing. The EPQ is something that a lot of you will be familiar with, and it strikes me that during all this time and access to the internet and books and whatever, kids can be doing some form of exploring a topic or a subject that interests them, and they will find something that interests them, and they've got this unique time where they've got a long period of time to go into detail about a subject that interests them. So whether you want to think of that as an EPQ or not, and of course I'm not suggesting that they do an EPQ, but it's just a great time and opportunity to look into something in a lot of detail and share it with you as parents. When you sit around the dinner table, what have you found out? And maybe parents themselves can be taking this opportunity, if they have the time, to look into something that's always interested them, so that your kids can be realizing, well, actually, lifelong learning really does mean that, and my parents are taking, why should I be doing this if they're not doing something similar themselves? So, I mean, that's one thing I'd mention. Clearly, there's lots of really wholesome, helpful things around befriending people. If there's relatives that they can do Zoom or call, that's fantastic. Volunteering is volunteering opportunities. There's open university courses that are being made available. There's so many things, but also don't underestimate what's coming from your school itself. So the schools themselves are, I know our school are making a lot of extracurricular stuff, PE, keeping fit, talking about mental health. So, I really don't think there's any shortage, but your own school website is probably a good place to go.
All right, that's great stuff. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Brian. Sigrid, do you have anything to add to what Brian has said here?
Yeah, I would say just kind of just to gently add to that. Yeah, there are lots of resources available. Schools will share that, as Brian has said. Universities give free lectures online, so they've got audio. So places like Oxford, the LSE, there's an abundance of stuff to listen to, read, TED Talks. So there's lots of stuff out there, and I think the way that this could be seen as an opportunity and a positive experience is if students, young people, are able to just delve into what they're really passionate about and what they're interested in a way that is supportive and kind of balanced with other things as well, like healthy exercise and having fun as well. So yeah, it should be a joyful thing, these sorts of experiences, not a burden, not a kind of sense of pressure. It should be, hey, I've got this time, so I'm going to read about X or listen to Y. It doesn't have to be, it shouldn't be a burden.
Right. Okay, that's great stuff. Thank you very much, Sigrid and Brian. We'll move on to the next question. Question is, my child has an SEND, special educational needs, and normally gets extra help at school. What support can the school give, and what questions should I be asking the school? I'm going to put this to Brian first, and then I'll bring in Salim on the back of that one as well. So Brian, over to you.
Okay, I mean, certainly in my own case with my own school, I know they've been working, our SEN department have been working incredibly hard. Some of the SEN kids, but by no means all, have actually been going in to school to get extra support. But I think the only point I'd make about this, and that's not even just about SEN, is that I'm not sure how, I mean, people are very busy and they're worried and they have their jobs and so on, but schools are very much open for business at the moment. And so if you have a question, or if you feel that your child's needs are not being met, you absolutely should get in touch with the school and say, this level of what you're asking is too high or too low. I know we did an online survey with our students and with their parents just a few days ago. Fortunately, they were very full of praise for the level of support and the level of work that was being expected from kids. But I would absolutely encourage you to, as parents, to get in touch with the school. I'm sure you're already doing that, but identify where you're going to get that support. Is it from a year leader? Is it from a subject teacher? Because, try as we do, you might find that some subjects are giving you much more and some subjects are not giving you very much. So please, flag that up with your school and say, the level of support is not really working at the moment, and try and work something out. I don't know if you'd agree with that. Sugra, would you agree?
Yeah. So just to yeah, complete agreement. The only other thing I would just like to add to that is schools had to react super quickly to this news around impending school closure. So realistically, we had the sense that it was going to happen like the week before it did, but you know, even then it wasn't 100% that it was going to be happening until 48 hours before the school closure. So you know, schools will have a variability of, in terms of at the 2 weeks before Easter, there might have been a variability of provision, but I would be very surprised if after Easter this is not on schools' radar. And just to echo what Brian has said, you know, if your child has SEND, there is a SENCO. You should be feeling comfortable to reach out and contact them. That is completely within your rights as a parent. And schools are functioning. I mean, we're all working every day. We're just working from home. We're calling. We're doing things differently. But schools are still places that you can contact and reach out to.
Okay, that's great stuff. Thank you very much, Suga. I just wanted to bring in Salim here, and then we'll move through to question 4. Salim, have you had much experience then directly with the schools where you know you have children with SEN, and can you offer some thoughts on this particular aspect of school life?
I wasn't prepared to talk about this question, but the special needs schools are still open and they are providing a lot of support virtually at the moment. And the children that have got educational healthcare plans, they're still able to go in at the moment. So they're finding that quite helpful. What's difficult is the children that are not able to go in at the moment. So children with severe learning difficulties or severe autism, if they're not able to go in for any reason, then parents are finding that significantly difficult at the moment.
Okay, that just brings me into the next question of with everyone generally being at home, the entire families, and with children who are going to be cooped up, within the household for long periods of the day. How can I support my child with their mental health, Salim?
Okay, so I'd probably start by thinking about mental well-being rather than mental health. So the usual things, so making sure that they are eating properly, getting enough sleep, doing exercise, trying to have some kind of routine in their lives. If they are using any substances, they may be using more at the moment. The children that I see are all smoking more cannabis at the moment than they normally would. So that's something to be looking out for. There's the balance between giving an adolescent enough space and being there for them. And I think parents can never really get that right, because whatever they're doing is probably going to be wrong. But maybe talking that through with the young person, seeing what do they need, and then trying to respond accordingly. Social media is huge for everyone at the moment, not just the adolescents, but trying to tell them what they should or shouldn't be doing isn't going to work. So maybe, again, thinking through with them, what do they find helpful about social media and what do they find unhelpful? And then maybe just that conversation might allow them to reflect on how helpful or unhelpful it is in terms of making their decisions. I think it's important for parents to have some perspective about the importance of learning at this time, but also balancing that with mental health. So if your child is having mental health difficulties, then that has to be their priority rather than their grades, and just being clear about that. I just wanted to mention that services are still running at the moment. So teams like mine, I work in a child and adolescent mental health service. We are still running. We have skeleton staff at the moment, but we're doing lots of work virtually with parents, with young people. We're offering therapy via Zoom. So we're still available to be contacted if there is any sense of mental illness with the child, any risk issues. Is that helpful? Is there anything else you want me to mention?
Okay, that's perfect. So, I just wanted to ask that you know, with some of the older kids, sometimes the motivation may wane. Is there anything, and you know, that you can suggest, you know, with the study, you know, particularly in your area of experience, what they could be doing to you know, to increase their mood, to keep them you know, engaged with the whole process?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, some of the I was thinking about what Sugar had said earlier on, and some of the young people that I see at work are overjoyed that they've got no exams and basically talking about having a 6-month holiday. And I think maybe a bit of a reality check for them. So bringing up some of the things that she said, that you know, there may be resets, you may not get the grades you want. Um, and again, just thinking through with them what the realities might be, because sure, if you've got your grades and your university place is set, then it is going to be really difficult to motivate an adolescent to still keep working. I think that's unlikely to happen. Maybe thinking about more long term, so if they're going to be wanting internships, then thinking about what might look good for their CV. Yeah, and in terms of general motivation, so again, having that routine, maybe doing things as a family, doing things with their peers, be it virtually, but they're more there's more likely to have some incentive if they are not doing it on their own.
Can I just add to that as
Yeah,
well? Sorry, because I also think, I don't know, the space for genuine praise. Now, I'm not a parent, but I know that that space of like authentic, genuine praise and finding what's genuinely motivating people can help, because there's no, if you're not interested in something, it's hard to find the motivation. But like in my head, especially with students who are year 11 and above, or GCSE and above, there's a real kind of sense that in theory they should be studying subjects that they're enjoying, and kind of there's an opportunity here to explore and yeah, there's an opportunity here to really find out what makes one tick. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. So that's we've come to the end of the.
Add to a couple of bit more bits about mental health and just general signposting.
Sure.
So we are going to be sharing on Head Start some resources around like national agencies to support with young people and their kind of general well-being or mental health with specific targeted issues. And also this is quite a kind of difficult thing to mention at this time, but at my school we've started to have students who have experienced bereavement from this experience and this time, and as a school we have a kind of a set of procedures and ways to support support families at this time. What I would say is it's absolutely imperative that you let schools know if you are facing those challenges. Again, it's my sincerest wish that the Jamaat is protected from this horrible kind of situation, but just keeping that communication and dialogue with the school is really important, because schools want to support you, and schools will want to then not be nagging you about this learning, that learning, that they'll try and coordinate an appropriate strategy and response to support your son or daughter. Brian, I don't know if you wanted to add in on that at all.
No, I totally agree. I think it comes back to some of the stuff we talked about before. Is, you know, whether things are okay and everyone's healthy, and it's about managing the level of work or extracurricular or project type things, but definitely that constant communication. They're not going to know. It's such a funny time, and sometimes, as I say, I mean, some of the calls I'm making, you know, I want to be really upbeat, as we all do, but you just don't know what you're going to get. You know, I've had people who say, you know, I speak to the mum, and the mum tells me I'm actually suffering from the virus, and you know, you don't know what you're going to get. So please, I know it's very difficult, and schools maybe not the first people that you think, well, I must get in touch with them, but but please do, because as Sugra says, they can offer support, and we want to offer support.
Okay, thank you very much, panelists. We've had a few questions that have come in from the audience here today, so I'm just going to go through those, and then perhaps we can pick those up. So the first one that I had come through from Samir Rayani, she says her son is in year 10. And how will his grades be calculated in preparation for GCSE exams next year? So I think you know, looking into that is perhaps looking at you know, the decision on subjects and how that will then impact on the GCSEs in the following year. Sugra?
Yeah, so Samir, really great question. I can, again, I really sympathise because essentially we've got year 10s and year 12 students with an extended period. The honest answer is we have no guidance as yet. And at present, the position is, you know, that students will sit exams in summer 2021. So my advice to students and parents of year 12 and year 10 is to keep studying, follow what the school is giving you, be as prepared as you can be. Obviously, if the guidance changes, we will offer advice and guidance based on that. But at present, the assumption is that exams will go ahead as usual, and that students at present, as of this day, will be sitting their exams based on the same curriculum. Now, is there a chance that that guidance may change depending on the length of school closure? Possibly. But at present, we're kind of sticking to business very much as usual with year 10 and year 12.
Right, okay, thanks very much, Sugra. The next question that we had was, well, it kind of links to one of the prepared questions. What support is there if my child isn't SEN? Brian?
I mean, it's going to vary from school to school, and you know, I'm well aware of what we're doing as a school, and I think it's been, parents are very happy with the level of support we're offering. I honestly, I'd be guessing what it's like, or whether there's a big variety. As Sugra says, some schools were really taken by surprise and maybe didn't have the technology to support to that level. I don't know, but I would just say it's very simple. If in doubt, just get in touch with the school. Will definitely on the website make it very clear who you should contact, whether that's the child's tutor or whatever. And definitely, you know, pester them, make sure that you're getting as much as you can from them. Maybe they're actually really organized, but maybe you're just going on the wrong platform. I think that's one of the issues that we faced, and I'm sure that's true for everyone. That, you know, this myriad of different platforms. Is it a VLE? Is it Microsoft Teams? Is it Google Classroom? Is it something else? So we all have to kind of navigate around that. We've only had 2 weeks to do it so far, but you know, definitely hopefully you've got time to look into that more than you've ever done before. So by, you know, as the weeks go on, you'll definitely get better about, well, where do I go to find out what's really going on?
Okay, that's great stuff. Thank you very much, Brian. One of the other questions, and maybe just a kind of admin query, is you know, we are going to be having the resource from this particular call available offline for you as well, and that will come in the next few days. I just wanted to say a very big thank you to our panelists for their time and their expertise today. Much appreciated, and to all of you for attending. I'm going to hand over to Shahina for a wrap up, and then I've got a couple of announcements, and then we can move forward. But before we do that, I think you know, it's just we've had and you know, keep having your questions come in. You know, we will endeavour to answer those. But let me hand over to Shahina just now for a quick wrap up.
Thanks, Ashif. And I can see on the chat there's a lot of support and other pieces of input coming in. I think the big takeaways from this session, the schools are providing support. It will vary, but please don't be scared to ask the schools. Reach out and ask for more help, more support, whether or not your child has specific education needs, but do be in touch with the school. We have been speaking to the Department for Education, and they acknowledge there's a lot of material out there at the moment. Over the Easter break, they will actually be working on pulling together useful resources, signposting parents in a much more constructive way. Again, as a parent, the first 10 days I found every time I woke up, there was just my inbox and social media was flooded with resources. And it was quite overwhelming actually to work out what to use. So we're hopeful that the signposting that comes out from the Department for Education will be useful to teachers and also to parents. From an EB perspective, we are actually starting to pull some resources together that teachers have recommended, and we'll have them on Head Start based on subject area and also age group. So that should start to make the navigation a little bit easier as well. And also just a really big thank you to Salim, just reminding us about some of the important things we need to think about in terms of supporting our children during this period. And you know, the one that Brian said that I think probably I need tattooed across my forehead is nagging doesn't work. It's quite easy to slip into the nagging mode. And part of it comes from our own fear for our children, but just trying to navigate that relationship with them. So again, thank you for that input today. And if there's, again, from all of you, if there's useful resources that you can help us share with the Jamaat, please share. And if you have more specific questions, if there's more personal or specific questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us.
That's great stuff. Thank you very much, Shahina. Just to let you know that off the back of today's session, we will be providing you with some evaluation forms. Those will come in the next day or so to everyone who attended the session today. So please do take the time to complete those and send those over to us. They're really important for us because, you know, as we move forward with this particular challenging period, we want to improve the service that we provide to you and make it relevant, you know, to you and your particular circumstances. As Shahina mentioned, you know, we do have a lot of resources coming through, and we will be putting those onto our AKEB website called Head Start. We also continue to have the educational advisory service, which is both a telephone-based and an email service. I did put on the email address akeb@iouk.org for anyone to mail in their queries, but also you know, I'm at the end of a phone. My number is in the directory, and if I can't answer a question, then I have a bank of subject matter experts who would be able to answer those questions for you. So rest assured, the support structure is there for you. We're only a click or a phone call away. My thanks to our panelists and to our attendees today, and good afternoon to you all.